Right. The reason is that once you're done with college, you will be required to communicate in a professional environment, whether you like it or not. Thereafter, once you're out of college, people will just assume that you have all the necessary skills in order to communicate in a professional setting. Make a presentation, take part in a group discussion, show up for an interview and participate in it. They will just assume that you're already equipped with the skills necessary for all of these communicative activities. Nobody will tell you thereafter how to take part in all of these. So, as a part of your English module, we're just trying to give you the necessary skills, tell you how to go about this, since communication is also necessarily an activity that makes use of language. In this case, English language. Okay? That is why we have this as a part of your English module. Perhaps none of you will find immediate use for a workshop like this since you are still studying. But we hope that you will retain some of the information that you get here and that it will be of use to you later on when you need these skills as a part of your career. Today, we'll be discussing how to make a good presentation. For every presentation, there are three core elements. Kindly keep yourselves on mute. Thank you, Dashrath. Okay. There are three core elements or essential elements for all presentations. The first element is you should have a message or you should have a story to tell. Your message or your story. The second element is you should have your slides, which might be text slides or it can be other kind of visual representations of data, for instance. So you will have a visual element. It could be either text or it could be figures, graphs, etc. You will have a message or a story. You will have slides or visuals. And finally, you will deliver your presentation in order to bring together your story and your visuals. Okay? You could have excellent visuals, you could have an excellent message, but the presentation is not going to make itself. This is where you come in, this is where your communication skills come in. Just a reminder that we are currently discussing a business presentation or a professional presentation, typically which lasts between 10 and 15 minutes. We're not talking about public speaking per se. We're talking about presentations, okay? Just so you have that distinction clear in your mind. Now, how do you get to your message or to your story? In order to get to your message or your story, you need to have a script. A rough script, perhaps. You don't have to adhere to the script. I'm sorry, I lost my network connection. Am I audible to you now?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
You need to have a script in place so that you can identify what the message you want to convey is. You could have a lot of things to say. I mean, you could have a lot of information to communicate. But if the story you want to tell is not clear to your audience, they will not pay attention to you. Okay? Remember that people don't actually ever pay attention to sentences. Even now, even as I speak, this is what terrifies me. The fact that I might be speaking too much in sentences and that you might not get the message that I'm trying to convey. So whenever you're making a presentation, you need to be very clear about what message is it that you want to convey. How do you gain clarity about the message that you want to convey? First, you need to research. Thoroughly research the topic on which you're going to present. Go beyond ChatGPT. Go beyond a cursory Google search. Go deep. Okay? Be committed to the presentation that you are making. I'm not saying that ChatGPT is a bad tool to use, but remember that ChatGPT gives like answers, similar answers to everybody who raises the same concerns to it, or who brings the same kind of questions to it. Okay? It cannot give you a unique answer. You, on the other hand, as a human, have this distinct ability to craft unique answers, answers that will make you stand apart. Okay? So you need to be aware that when you research, you should go deep. You should be committed to it. Then you can brainstorm. Brainstorming is when you collect information from varied sources. This might be through discussions or meetings or conversations. It could be anything. You just collect information from any available source. You take different perspectives from different people. So you get a lot of information, which leads to the next step, which is brain dump. Brain dump is when you bring together all of this raw data or this raw unedited information in a written form. Okay? In a written form, or perhaps just in the form of when I say a written form, it doesn't necessarily mean huge sentences. It can be in the form of bulleted points. It can also sometimes be in the form of recordings. Sometimes you record a lot of things, and that becomes your brain dump, your raw, unedited information. Okay? So you have a lot of stuff with you when you get to the stage of a brain dump. You have several perspectives with you. Then you do a mind map. You prepare a mind map. A mind map is when you map out in your mind how you're going to present this information. So you have a lot of stuff with you, but you can't just dump it on people. No, you have to craft a narrative out of it. So you need to have some kind of direction to it, some structure to it. Mind map is when you mentally decide on the structure. Okay? This is also the stage at which you begin to choose. You pick and choose what is necessary, you omit what is not necessary. At this stage, you will be able to find out your core message. And your presentation should be structured around this core message. Otherwise, it will get lost. People will not be able to understand what you're talking about. So, you should structure your information around this core message. Your core message is what your audience will take away from the presentation. What you expect your audience to retain once they are done listening to all of the stuff that you want to say. Once you decide on your core message, you can start outlining your presentation. You structure it in writing, in the form of your slides. You decide what comes first, what comes next, and what comes last. So you have an opening, you have the body of the presentation, and then you have something with which you will conclude the presentation. Okay? At this stage, you will have a rough draft. Again, it need not be in the form of fully formed sentences. It can be in the form of a multitude of bulleted points, but it is still a rough draft because you've not done the final edit, right? Then you need to sit down, go through all of that information, and edit your rough draft properly. When you edit your rough draft, there will be some things which are essential to your presentation. some things which are critical to your presentation, some things which are desirable to your presentation. When you say there are some things which are critical to your presentation, it means that without that information, you cannot make your presentation. Okay? When you say there are some things which are essential to your presentation, it means that without those things, your presentation will be lacking in some sense. You might have a presentation, but a very low quality presentation. Some more information is essential in order to construct the full structure of that presentation. When you say that there are some desirable elements in a presentation, it means that if you add those elements, your presentation will become more attractive, more relatable, more accessible to an audience. Okay? So, this is the difference between critical information, essential information, and desirable information. All three are necessary to a presentation. When you are making the draft, make sure that you do not exceed your word limit. Make a short draft. Abhay, unless you want to, kindly keep your video off. It might be distracting to some. Thank you. Also, I want you to know that this is a recorded presentation, okay? In case you did not know. Right. Right. You need to be minimal with the words
Excuse me,
that
ma'am.
you use. Yes, Tanisha.
Ma'am, will we get the recordings?
You will get the recordings. I'll address this towards the latter half of our presentation, okay?
Thank you,
Because
ma'am.
sometimes people join late and they have the same question, will we get the recordings? So I'll address this towards the latter half of the presentation. Right. If you are making a 10 to 15 minute presentation, then typically you'll be asked to make a presentation that has 1200 to 1800 words in it. Not more than that. Remember that no matter how short your draft is, when you speak, there will be more words in it. So you have to make sure that your draft is minimal. Your draft is short, concise draft on which you can later expand. Okay? Do not overwrite. Do not exceed the words or the time allotted to you when you are making a presentation. For example, if I go beyond 6 o'clock, all of you will get restless. And I know that. So I should stop by 6, right? Now, when you are trying to outline or draft or give structure to your presentation, there are some methods that we can use. Can you give me 1 second? I just need some water. I'll have a drink of water and rejoin you immediately. Right. Thank you. There are some methods that we can use when we are trying to give structure to our presentation. The first of these methods is called the PREP method. PREP stands for position, reason, example, position. This method is ideal when you have a debatable topic. A debatable topic is the kind of topic where you do not have a right answer or a wrong answer. Rather, you will have an opinion on it. You will have your own perspective on it. This perspective is what we call your position on the topic. So, if you're using the PREP method, that is, if your presentation is on a debatable topic, then first you would state what your stand on this topic is. What is your position concerning this topic? State your position first, then give reasons as to why you take this position. Why is it that you choose to take this stance in relation to this debatable topic. Then give an example about how your stand or your position on the topic is justifiable. Give a concrete example, a specific example as to why your stand on the topic can be justified, or why is it a reasonable stance to take. You need to illustrate that using an example. As your conclusion, you simply restate your perspective. You start by asserting your position, you end by restating your position. So you end in a manner that is very similar to your opening. For example, if the topic is gene editing for human enhancement ethical? People can take different stances on it. Some people might say it is ethical. Some people might say no, gene editing for human enhancement should not be done. And both of these perspectives will have their own reasons as to why they take this stance. Both sides can offer examples justifying their stance. And both sides can also conclude by reaffirming their position with regard to this particular topic. Is that clear to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Sometimes
ma'am.
there can also be other topics like,
ma'am.
should there be capital punishment? That is also a debatable topic. Sometimes you get very debatable topics. We don't always have agreement concerning these topics. Rather, we only have perspectives. So you state your perspective, give reasons, give a few examples, and then restate your position. Okay? This is the prep method. This is ideal for what kind of topics?
Debate competitions.
Debatable
Not
topic.
debate competitions.
Debatable topics.
Debatable topics. We're not talking about a competition here. We're talking about a presentation here. Even for a presentation, you can sometimes be given debatable topics. Adnan, you have a question.
Ma'am,
Hi,
I
good
have a
evening.
question.
1 second,
So-
Rutveksha. Adnan, yeah, go
Hi,
ahead.
Good evening, ma'am. So, in the prep method, it says that state a claim and back it up. So, what would be the best way to back up your claim, basically?
There might be some logical reasoning behind your stance, I presume, regardless of what topic it is and what position you assume in relation to the topic. You will have some kind of reasoning behind it. Correct?
Yeah.
That reasoning
So,
would
could
be.
we?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could we use factual data, like numbers and like quantitative data, for that?
Numbers and quantitative data can be used, but once again, this class is for electronic system or data science. This class is for anybody who has English 1 within their course syllabus, regardless of whether you study electronic systems or data science. Okay. Numbers can be used, but once again, I want to ask you, do we collect figures without any kind of logical reasoning behind that collection?
Absolutely not. There has to be rationale for it.
Yes, exactly. There has to be a rationale for it. That rationale will become the claim with which you will back up your position.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am. It answers my question.
Okay. But Preksha, you had a question.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I
Yeah, go
don't
on.
understand this thing about how to state your position in any presentation.
What do you not understand? Can you be a little more specific?
Like you said, that state your position while giving
Hmm.
presentation. So, what position?
State your opinion. State your opinion is what that means. What is your
Oh,
take on this? What perspective do you have here? For example, we're using a debatable topic, right? So people will not have the same opinion regarding it. You will have one perspective, another person will have another perspective. Okay? So you can state your opinion regarding the topic. There is no right answer or wrong answer in relation to
okay,
a
ma'am.
debatable topic. So whatever opinion you take will be your position concerning the topic. Is that clarified?
Yes, ma'am.
This class is held at 5 p.m. Then why? I don't understand what you're asking me, Sakshi. This class is scheduled for 5 p.m. Therefore, it is held at 5 p.m. I don't know what else to say to that. Right. Premanand, right? Premanand, yes.
Ma'am, can you please re-explain the restate claim part because I couldn't understand that.
Whatever your opinion is, that is what you begin with, right? So you've already
Yes.
stated your opinion once. In order to conclude, you state your opinion again. That is why you're restating your claim. Clear? So you
O-
end
Okay, ma'am.
exactly
So
the
it's
same
like
way that you begin.
we are making people remember again the topic that
Yes,
what
we
I
give
was
our
giving
opinion
reason
on
for.
it, we give our reasoning for it, we give examples for it, and then we remind the people once again, yeah, this is why I have my opinion.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, got it.
Okay. Another method that we use in order to structure or outline or draft our presentation is the past, present, future method. Past, present, future. That is, it follows the chronological order. When do you use this method? You use this method when you have a topic where there is a great deal of data involved. A great chunk of information has to be presented during this 10 to 15 minutes. In that case, you take the chronological order. And what if you look at stories, for example? Stories always follow some kind of chronology. Some kind of chronology. Something happens, then something happens, then something follows, then something happens to conclude the event. Right? So you organize all of this information chronologically in order to craft a story so as to work through a great deal of data or information. This is something that you will use as data scientists a lot. Do we get a topic for presentation that we have to present today or tomorrow? No, you don't. But we will have small exercises as part of our workshop. Okay? And by the time you complete your degree, you'll be heading into placements. You will actually have a presentation to make. So this is, like I said, this is not for immediate use. This is something that we hope you will retain with you and will come to your use later on. Okay. As data scientists, you will have to use the past, present, future method a lot because this is what you do. You work with a great deal of data, a great deal of information, and you try to make predictions on the basis of that. Predictive analysis. I'm sure you're all good at that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. This is something that you guys always express in your written assignments. What skills do you have? I'm very good at problem solving and I'm very good at predictive analysis. I honestly do not understand because I do not come from the same field. I do not fully understand what it entails. But by the fact that owing to the fact that I have read so many of your assignments, I know that you're very good with it. And I will believe you. Okay? I will give you credit for being very good with predictive analysis. So, as data scientists, you will have to use this method a lot. Past, present, future method, where you organize data in a chronological manner in order to analyze it, in order to make predictions on the basis of it, in order to make an argument or a case by presenting this data in a chronological order. Okay? For example, we can now edit human genes, and this may irrevocably change the future of our species. We don't actually know the answer to this, right? We can only predict the outcome of human gene editing. We don't actually know the answer to this, but we know what we have done, what science and research have done so far in relation to human gene editing. So that would be the past. You know what kind of research is being undertaken in this area right now. That would be the present. And really, in relation to all of this, like Adnan said, there will be a lot of data, a lot of figures, sometimes a lot of examples. All of this will be available to you. So you need to structure this great deal of data in a chronological order so as to be able to predict what might happen in the future. Is this leading to a good outcome in the future? Or is this leading to a bad outcome in the future? So should we encourage human gene editing? Or should we not encourage human gene editing? Do you understand this? All the things that have happened in the past, all the things that are happening in the present, in order to understand or to make a prediction concerning what might happen in the future. This is the past, present, future method. Another method that we can use is the problem, cause, solution method. Just 1 second. I need to look at the chat box for a second. Ma'am, sometimes while talking to someone, when we state our opinions, the other person sometimes takes it differently than we suppose and starts to fight. Okay, yes, they do. So what to do in this type of situation and how to handle the situation? Right. Okay, Aishman, that's a very valid question. So this would be your concern not while you're making the presentation. If you're a teacher, this should be your concern while you're making the presentation, because students will shoot questions at all times, okay? And that's not a bad thing at all. But if you're making a professional presentation, this is something that you'll have to be concerned about towards the end of your presentation while you open the floor to questions, right? How to handle the situation. Be accepting of opposing viewpoints. Be accepting of difference. That is the best thing that I can tell you. Not everybody is going to think like you. Not everybody is required to think like you. There can be more than one position regarding a topic. That is acceptable. Okay? But you do not have to entertain the fight. You do not have to descend into an argument. Okay? At the point where we give respect to someone else's opposing or differing perspective, they will actually not have any reason to fight. Okay? That is how you handle the situation. It is a very diplomatic move and something that you will probably learn or master only through practice. That's okay. Right. The problem cause solution method. This is ideal for a business presentation or policy presentations where the need is to identify a problem, understand the causes, understand what is causing that problem, and then arrive at a solution. You want a solution to this problem. That is why you're making this presentation. If that is the case, if your focus is on solution-based presentations, then you can use the problem, cause, solution method. Sometimes there might be something wrong in a business plan. Sometimes there might be something wrong in the policy decisions made by a firm. You don't know. In any of these cases, where you are required to recognize the problem, where you are required to identify the causes, and where you need to arrive at a solution, you can use the problem, cause, solution method. Now, once again, when do we use the PREP method? Position, reason, example, position, method.
Debatable
Debate.
topics.
Debatable topics.
Debatable topics. Where do we use the past, present, future method?
When dealing with great
Predictive
deal of
analysis.
Storytelling.
information.
Yes, storytelling, when you want to be chronological, when you want to make predictions, a great amount of data. Correct. And when do we use the problem, cause, solution method?
For
Where
Business or policy.
Business and policy
presentation.
For business or policy presentations, where you should be solution oriented. Correct. And then we have another method, which is the AIDA method. Attention, interest, desire, action method. This is something that we use when we need to persuade people. You need to persuade, let's say, some customers. You need to persuade, let's say, some students. You need to persuade, let's say, a focus group. You don't know, right? When you want to persuade somebody, you use the AIDA method. In advertisements, this is the method that is most often used. What actually happens in the AIDA method? For example, you use this in a sales pitch. You use this when you're launching a new product. You use this in advertisements. What actually happens here? The first thing is that you need to grab the attention of the listener or that of the audience. You need to grab their attention with maybe a jingle, maybe a visual, we don't know, maybe a question, maybe a promise. It could be anything, maybe a price or an offer. You grab their attention, right? Then you capture their interest. You're going one step further. Your attention can be a little fickle. It can come and it can go. But when you've grabbed someone's interest, they will listen to you a little more intently. You grab their interest. You capture their interest. You get them interested in the product, in the offer that you're making maybe, in the pitch that you're making maybe, right? You get their attention. Madhav will come to that question after I finish the explanation. After you get their attention, after you get their interest, you also spur some kind of desire in them. Some kind of desire for the product or the outcome which the product can generate. A toothpaste ad, for instance. You can't actually feel anybody's fresh breath through the screen. But a toothpaste ad can spur in you the desire for fresh breath. A beauty product, for instance. You can't actually touch or feel anybody's skin through the screen. But an advertisement can spur in you a desire to have similar skin, right? Or a similar look or a similar fashion. This desire is actually what prompts the customer or the consumer to act. What is the action here? The action here is purchasing. The action here is investing in your product, right? So you're getting them to behave in a certain manner, but you're doing it very nicely, very subtle manner, right? First you get their attention, then you capture their interest, then you spur some kind of desire in them, and then you prompt them to act on it. Come on, spend some money, spend some money. right? Whatever you desire will be yours if you could just spend some money, right? That is what we do through advertisements, through the AIDA method, whenever you want to make a persuasive presentation. Now, the toothpaste ad is just an example. It can be anything. Now, to come to Madhav's question, for topics such as environment related topics, we would use this AIDA method. That depends on what your intention is. Is your intention, Chetna, just a second. I'll just address this question and then get to you. If your interest or if your intention is to make someone do an action, right? If your intention here is to cause an action from the part of your listener, then it would be the AIDA method. If the idea here is to persuade them to act in a particular manner or to take a certain decision, then your method would be AIDA method. But it can also be a problem cause solution method. But there your intention is different. Your intention is to arrive at a solution. So it's not actually just the topic that would determine the method. It is also the manner in which you approach the topic. For example, I am organizing a cleanliness drive. That is, I expect people to come together and clean my surroundings, not just my surroundings, our surroundings. I expect people to come together and do this. Yes, Balamurugan, sales pitch, product launch of iPhone like Steve Jobs. Exactly, iPhone like Steve Jobs. Right. So in that case, I am actually persuading them to act in a certain manner. They might not always come together if I just tell them the solution to this garbage problem is for us to clean it. They might not do that. But if I say something like, what if we had a very clean, a really clean stream to sit next to when we return after a very tiring day of work? Just in a or a stream, a very serene environment. What if we had a beautiful park near our place? At this point, I am actively causing them to desire all of these things. Could I add a few points for the AIDA method? Of course, Adnan, just 1 second. So I am causing them to desire a particular environment. All you need to do in order to have this environment is to come together and clean the place and then invest some money maybe to set up a park, to put up a few benches, to have a little pond with a few lotuses in it. Maybe, right? So I am spurring them to act on that desire. There my method is AIDA method. If on the other hand, I'm making a presentation in front of, important delegates from several countries in order to find a solution to one particular environmental problem, then I would use the problem cause solution method. It depends on your intention. Is that clear? Okay. Okay, I'll just take questions in the order. Chetna had first raised a hand. Does Chetna have a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
So, ma'am, let us suppose that we are making a TED talk about a certain topic like how to avoid procrastination. So, which one
How
of
to
the
avoid
following?
procrastination?
Yes, ma'am. Like suggesting a problem and a solution, I guess. So, ma'am, which one of the methods would be ideal?
Yes. See, you identified the method yourself. That's what I said, right? Your method depends upon your intention.
Ma'am, but it can also have other aspects to it, like we can maybe integrate the AIDA method as well in it.
Of course we can. It's not that we can't use one method in combination with another method. These are not watertight silos.
Okay.
Okay? You can combine the methods as you see fit. The idea here is just to tell you that there are a few methods which can be of use to you when you are trying to outline the structure of your presentation. This is not to limit your thought, this is to help you think. Get creative. By all means, get creative. Remember that your intention decides the method that you choose.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next person was Premanand.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I was thinking that YouTube can be the best example, right, for this IDA method. Like
Prida
they
method.
grab our attention. They grab our
Sorry?
attention through the thumb. They grab our attention through the thumbnails. Then the topic they have written on it grabs our interest, and then they make they create a desire to watch their content, and they make us subscribe them. That can be the action,
Yes, they
is it?
do. They do. That's a very good example, Premanand. Right. Now, Adnan wanted to
Okay.
add something. Adnan, go on.
Yes, so essentially, what I'd like to add about the IDA method is that it's primarily derived from the marketing and the advertisement agencies, and how you persuade someone to follow your idea. So basically, what it says is the IDA method usually has a call to action where you are inviting the other person to believe in your idea, and you answer them by showing them that what's in it for them. You're basically convincing them that by following your idea how they can fulfill their own desires. So I mean, it plays on the psychology of a person. Thank you.
That's completely true. That's very correct. That is indeed true. The element of desire is most certainly a psychological strategy. Correct. Parvez.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening, Parvez.
Ma'am, I would like to ask that in video ads, we can present the thing and we can make the desire inside the customer to purchase the product.
Yes,
But
you
when,
can. That's very similar to what Premanand said, no?
but ma'am, if I have some physical product and if I will go shop to shop and I want to present that product,
No.
uh,
You have some physical product. I didn't get the next part.
I mean, ma'am, if I will try to sell some product, and then how
Okay.
should I present physically? I mean, shop by shop, I will go to the customer.
Okay. So here we are talking about a business presentation, right? We're not talking in the sense of door to door marketing. So the context is very important. We are actually talking about making a presentation. So I feel like that question actually falls a little out of the scope of today's session. That is
Okay,
the
ma'am,
problem
how
here.
should I present? I mean, how should I present our product? Like, is Steve Jobs present their iPhone in front of somebody? And they show something about iPhone. And ma'am, how should I present my product?
How do you want to
Like,
present your product, Pavesh? What is your product?
And
like,
isn't
Okay.
this a salesman skills?
Yes,
yeah,
there are salesmanship skills here. If you are
Maybe
talking
that's
about
what he's
what
referring to.
method you can use in order to do this, I would suggest the IDA method since you're specifically referring to a product. If you're asking me how you can, grab the attention or like find or like arouse the interest of somebody or spur desire in them for the product or prompt them into action, you can do
yes,
that in
ma'am.
several different ways. You can do that in infinite number of ways. So I cannot tell you a set formula which you can follow in order to do that. This is actually, that is what makes this a communicative skill. No, this is not just about you add 1 plus 1. This is about how you communicate with people. So it ultimately rests on the manner in which you want to communicate what is so good about your product. I
Ma'am,
cannot
it
offer
will
you a
confuse
formula
actually.
here. Huh?
It will come through the experience by talking with many.
It will come through the
many.
experience. It will also come through, I mean, in a lot of ways, the manner in which you view your product will be reflected in the manner in which you speak about your product. So it should be a product in which you have some kind of confidence. That is there. Right.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Okay. Using either IDA method, we can even manipulate people. Yes, we can. We certainly can. Can we discuss the prep method again? I will discuss the prep method again, maybe if we have time after covering our topics. Now, going to the slides. How do we make impactful slides? What are the essential elements in a slide deck? You should have a cover slide, which is necessary. You should have an overview slide, which gives a quick overview or which quickly tells the viewer or the listener in a snapshot, what are the important points that you're going to cover in this presentation? You can have a textual slide or several textual slides. I have several textual slides here, right? Is this the first session of our presentation classes? Yes, this is the first session of our presentation classes. You can have visual slides having images or graphs or charts. You can have section headers. Section headers. You would have this PDF under supplementary content section, I believe. You can have section header slides. That is when you are transitioning from one section to another. For example, this is a section header. Within the presentation, I am moving to the next section, which is the slides or the visual elements. You can have a summary slide at the end of it. You can have a thank you slide at the end of it. Okay? When you are using textual slides, the font should be legible. Legible is readable. And there should be minimal text in it. Your slide should not look so crammed that it is unreadable. Where can you find some slide templates? You can find them in several places. You can find them. Did somebody want to say something? You can find them all over the internet, actually. You can use several of these websites, some of which are listed here. This is by no means an exhaustive list. These are just some of the resources that you can use if you are trying to find a template. Or you can just use Google Slides or Microsoft PowerPoint. It's up to you, okay? Yes, having some graphic design knowledge does help. You can also prepare slides using more user-friendly tools, even though you do not have any graphic design tools knowledge. It is not imperative that you be a good graphic designer just to make slides. It is actually not. You just have to be very organized about how you go about organizing or collecting or presenting information on your slides. When you use images and when you use formatting, how you use them is very important. Do not use copyrighted images. If you are using images that are taken from a particular source, you should cite the source of that image. You can use graphics, you can use smart art, but it should not make your slide look unprofessional. You should choose a template and you should choose a color palette and stick to it. You can also choose a combination of serif fonts and sans serif fonts. Do not use fonts that look too informal. There should not be too many colors on your slides. That would be very unprofessional. And if you have tables or text in your presentation, spend some time formatting the tables. Spend some time cleaning up the text. Format your table such that they all look the same. And clean up your text such that they all have similar or the same font size, and that there are no errors in your text. This is an example of a visual example of what a serif font looks like and a sans serif font looks like. A serif font has this little decorative stroke at the end of it. This little decorative tail or a stroke is what makes it a serif font. The sans serif font, on the other hand, it does not have that decorative stroke at the end of the letter form. Right. Now, what you need to pay attention here is not to the height, etc. If you are using different fonts, then align the height. That is important. Okay. It should not look as if it is disorderly on the slide, unless you are going for aesthetic chaos, in which case, once again, you will need to have a set measurement of how you are spacing the words or the titles, the letter forms on your slide. What you need to pay attention to here? What is going on in the chat box? Yes, you will get the recorded sessions. You will get the recorded sessions. What you need to pay attention to here specifically is to the fact that you can use a combination of serif fonts and sans serif fonts in your presentation. But you choose a combination of fonts and stick to it. Each font conveys a certain idea. For example, a serif font like Georgia implies that it is very formal and that it is very practical. Times New Roman, professional, traditional. Okay? You are sticking to convention here. When you have a sans serif font like Arial, it's a stable kind of letter form. You're conforming to a certain standard, right? All of these font shapes thus imply certain things. You can use a combination of this in your slide design. When there is a long paragraph, for instance, ideally there should not be long paragraphs, but bulleted point after bulleted point of text in a slide, then it is better to use a serif font, because that little feet will guide the letters into each other and the letters will appear connected. The reading process will be a little easier, right? When there are titles, you can use sans serif fonts because they stand out. They make reading of the font easier. In children's books, for instance, you will find a lot of sans serif fonts used. So it is up to you to strike a balance between the two. Do not think that you should stick to serif fonts or that you should not use serif fonts. You can use a combination of the two. Right. Now to address the queries which have been raised right from the beginning. The PDF should be available under supplementary contents. The recording will be made available to you. The recording will be uploaded to YouTube and the link to the playlist will be made available in your course calendar. It will not be done immediately because today we are recording one session. Tomorrow we have the continuation of the session. The next workshop session will be on next Monday. So it will take some time for the upload to actually happen. It takes the coordination between different teams. I can't do this myself, remember? So we need to coordinate between different teams. The upload will happen and the playlist link will be made available in your course calendar. PDFs will be available under the supplementary content section. Once again, it will not be done immediately. After the workshops are over, the supplementary content section will be updated. Right. From where we get this recorded lecture already answered. Should a single font be used across slides consistently? It does not have to be a single font. You can choose a combination of fonts. But that combination should be used consistently across slides. Okay, if you're using one particular font, if you're using, let's say, Century Gothic for your titles, use Century Gothic for all of your titles. If you're using Arial for your subtitles, use Arial for all of your subtitles. Yes, consistency is what matters. Now, somebody had asked me to go back to the prep method. We will do that, and with that, we will conclude today's session. The PREP method. PREP is an acronym: position, reason, example, position. You will have a debatable topic, that is a topic to which there is no clear right or wrong answer. Instead, everybody will have a particular opinion concerning that topic, a specific perspective concerning that topic. So, you start by stating your perspective / opinion / position. It's all the same thing. Okay? You start by stating your position or your opinion or your perspective. Then you substantiate the reasons as to why you have chosen this particular opinion. Why is it that this is your opinion? Why do you take this position? Okay? You substantiate your reason with the rationale. You substantiate your position with the rationale or the logic which leads you to take this position. You give some examples. You give some examples that once again illustrate your position, and then you restate your opinion. You end the same way that you begin. You start by saying, no, I do not think capital punishment should be legal. Capital punishment should not be allowed in our country. I don't think capital punishment should be allowed in our country because reason 1, reason 2, reason 3. Then I'm citing the example of some case of where capital punishment was used. Let's say capital punishment in the case of one particular accused. Okay, accused for any case. They have been sentenced to death. You are using that as an example. But for whatever reason, you felt like sentencing them to death did not solve the problem. The problem is still persisting. So, capital punishment does not seem to be a very effective method of punishment. Then what do? That is your example. You are saying, therefore, capital punishment should not be there. It is not actually giving you any result. Again, this is just an opinion. Different people will have different opinions. And then you go back to your claim. This is why I think that capital punishment should not be there. Clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That is the end of today's presentation. Thank you everybody for your patience and your attention. I sincerely hope that this was helpful to you and that you will retain some of this information for future use. Hope to see you all tomorrow as well. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
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 Thank you everybody. Go on. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Supreksha.
ma'am, I want to ask difference between critical, essential, and desirable reasons in presentation. What else? I forgot.
Critical, essential, and desirable. Critical are those things without which you just can't make the presentation. For example, we will say oxygen is critical to life on planet Earth. Without oxygen, there's no life. So things like that, things without which you just can't make the presentation. Some things are essential. Essential as in, without those things, your presentation will be lacking in some sense. For example, we might say family life is essential. You need to have some kind of a family. It need not be family that is related to you by blood, but you need to have some kind of a family, a support system in place that is essential to our life. Okay? Some things are desirable to our life. Some things are just, they make our life better. They make our presentation better. Images maybe, some graphs or charts maybe. All of these are desirable elements in a presentation. We can say a hobby is very much desirable to a person's wholesome development. Right? Without a hobby also, and somebody can grow up. But it is desirable to have a hobby. Likewise, there are some elements which are desirable in a presentation. Clear?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Any more questions?
Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you.
And your voice
Go
is
on
very
then.
good.
Thank you,
Yes.
Madhav.